So, like, is Little Devil Inside a real game? Was the Kickstarter, like, just for the trailer? Like, we got confused somehow? It wasn't actually supposed to be a game, it was just an animated trailer, and that was the whole thing? Is Neostream Interactive, like, a shell corporation? Is South Korea even a real country? Let's talk about Little Devil Inside. So I made a video a few months back about Little Devil Inside and how excited I was for it and how it was my most anticipated game of the year because I really believed it was going to come out in this calendar year, and since then I've been on a roller coaster ride of emotions. I've been going back and forth with every single rumor. I'm just flip-flopping around whether I believe it or not. Is it going to be at the next confirmed state of play? Is it in development hell? Is it going to come out this year? Is it even going to be shown this year? And I guess right now is a perfect example of that. There's a rumor that there's a state of play on August 12th, which means that it'll be announced on August 10th, which is the day after this video is supposed to come out. But the thing is, that rumor is a bit unsubstantiated, and even if it is true, there's no telling whether Little Devil Inside will even have a presence there. But then I look at Shuhei Yoshida actually addressing people talking about the game on Twitter, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, maybe we might hear something about this soon. Maybe we really are close to news about this game. I don't know. I never know. Will I be disappointed? Probably. Is there a chance we finally get a release date for this game? Maybe. Will I entirely cease to experience joy for the rest of my life if I don't hear anything in August? Absolutely. Don't put that in. That makes me sound depressed. Editor, me from the future, just take that part. Don't just zoom into my face for comedic. You're doing it, aren't you? You bastard. Well, I'm kind of in the camp right now of being just an impatient little shit who's been waiting for news for about a year, and I'm anxious to see something. There are people who have tipped past that point and over to the more kind of pissed side of things, and that's very understandable because this game was funded on Kickstarter over 6 years ago. That is how long some people have been waiting for this title. For context, in that exact same amount of time, Logic has put out 8 full-length projects and then retired and then unretired and dropped another full-length project, and we still don't have a release date for this game. Well, actually, sorry, no, that's not true. That's a bit misleading. There actually is a ballpark estimate on the Kickstarter page of fall 2016. So yeah, they missed the mark by just a smidge. But it isn't really just the long development process on its own that's getting under people's skin, it's mainly the lack of communication during that amount of time. If you look at when this game was showcased at the PS5 event last year, ever since then it's been entirely radio silent. There's been no new announcements, no new trailers, no new updates on their Kickstarter, no new YouTube video, and nothing from Sony other than, I guess recently, like I said, the head of PlayStation Indies acknowledged the existence of the game in a couple of information barren tweets. Now, like I said, there's a chance, although a slim one, that this all changes in the next couple of days. Maybe that state of play really does happen and Little Devil Inside is there. But still, even if that happened, this past year of almost no communication and even the 5 years prior to that with dwindling communication need to be talked about, especially when we're talking about the grander scheme of how we as fans handle rumors or light confirmations, how we should be treating indie studios, especially when they're like debut studios, and what do those studios and developers owe to us. I think there are things that fans are absolutely right to be annoyed at, and I hope that Neostream looks at that and makes amends in the future, not just for this project, but for any future endeavors. But there are also, I think, things that we as fans need to be more aware of the dangers of, and we need to avoid making certain mistakes, getting upset or excited about certain things, because it just makes the excitement and the anticipation for something that we could be really excited about way worse than it should be. And I think that one's better to discuss first, so that leads us straight into the July debacle. Going back to reference my older LDI video again, I started to notice how some comments soon after the video released were talking about how they heard the game was coming out in July, and some people were also saying that it was confirmed that it was coming out in July. Now I saw this and I thought, hold up. I remember that there was like a really small mention of July in fine text at the end of a deleted PlayStation trailer, and that was the only time that July had ever been mentioned, but there's no way that's all this is coming from, right? And in preparation for this video, just to make sure I had all my facts straight, I asked a bunch of people on the subreddit and the Discord for this game where the July date actually came from, and the response was basically, Yeah, this. Someone also mentioned that there was an interview that Neostream did this year and they said July themselves, but for the life of me I couldn't find that anywhere, and I think there might have been some mix-up to the info that made its way to this guy. Basically, for all intents and purposes, this one image was the root of the belief that this game was coming out in July. Sure, there were other small leaks, but they weren't very precise or were the result of clear miscommunication. And what this led to is that even in the dying hours of the month of July, you had people in the Discord believing that maybe this game would be shadow dropped with basically no marketing. It would just land on our PlayStations in the next few hours, and of course, that didn't happen. People were also referencing the fact that July showed up on Wikipedia as the release date when you searched the game, and that still hadn't been changed, and for nothing to be shown in July, it was kind of a turning point for some people. A lot of people were mad that, hey, if it wasn't gonna come out in July like you said it was, why wouldn't you at least tell us that? And I think this is a teachable moment, which is why it's part of the video. What we need to recognize is that Neostream never actually claimed that the release date of this game was in July. Sony never made this release date prominent. It was tucked away in a little corner alongside multiple other games, and a lot of these release dates by the time we reached July were already wrong. Solar Ash was set for June according to this, but June had come and gone and we saw nothing about its release. Kena was publicly slated for a release in spring of 2021. This trailer said March, they said Psych, it's actually coming out in August, and then they said Psych again, it's coming out in September. These dates were clearly supposed to be placeholders and general estimates, and on top of that, they were also removed very quickly after the trailer was originally posted. Probably because these were just internal estimates at Sony, and they were most likely to be wrong, and that's why they were also so non-specific. And if we've seen just how easily public release dates can be pushed back, ones that developers were confident enough to put into the world in a much more prominent way, it should come as no surprise that these internal estimates were almost always going to be at least a few months early a lot of the time. As for why Neostream didn't really address this stuff, well, I think it's twofold. One, Neostream's line of communication with fans is horrible right now, and we'll delve into that in a second, but also, in a lot of ways, this may not have seemed very worth responding to. General release dates that leak or are alluded to end up on Wikipedia as placeholders all the time, and Neostream never actually committed to that timeline. Even though we got the date from the publisher of this game, so it seems reliable, the way that it was presented was a clear indication that this wasn't supposed to be anything concrete, and also, again, it was deleted right after, which adds to that same point. Also, Wikipedia is just a way to accumulate a bunch of information that's on the internet. It's not necessarily anything official, so the fact that it said July just means that around the internet, the belief was that this is probably coming out in July. That's something that I just want to make people aware of in case they didn't know, because if you look at something's release date on Wikipedia, it does not necessarily have to be right. Actually, a lot of the time, it's completely wrong. Which is all to say that Neostream probably didn't address it because there was nothing to address, even if it seemed like that to us. And this is what I was alluding to when I said we need to be careful where we draw the line with leaks and rumors and small general snippets of information. These are fine for like ballpark estimates. Hell, I would say that this July date on here is a good indication that this game will release sometime in the next 6 months, considering the eventual timeline of some of the other games on that list. But these should never be treated as a fact unless you hear something directly from the creators of the game, which even then is subject to change. You're doing yourself a bit of a disservice giving something like this too much merit. Even the thing that I just said about this probably coming out in the next 6 months, just take that with a gigantic heap of salt. Yes, there's evidence to maybe back up that that is true, but also, I'm just some guy on the internet. I'm just as clueless as you are. I might just be a massive liar. I once told my brother that Pokemon were real and you just had to go to special zoos to see them. Don't trust me. I'm a psychopath. Who knows what I'm capable of? Make sure you mentally check yourself when you hear unofficial news. It's just gonna make you sad if the rumor isn't true and you essentially project something onto these developers that's really unfair to them. If you're annoyed at Neostream because of the lack of communication, that is your prerogative. You can feel that way, of course, but if you're upset that nothing came out in July specifically, that's something that you can't really hold against them or blame them for. I think it's important to take that into yourself and say, okay, I need to not get carried away with non-official announcements in the future, because at a certain point, it's bad for you and you alone. But do you remember earlier on how I said that there were definitely things that we should be annoyed at? Yeah. Neostream has left fans out to dry the past year, and I think the biggest mistake they've made is underestimating just how important their updates have to be. It seems like they only want to post new information when they have heaps of things to share, like a completely new location, for example. But the problem you get into once you're reaching that final stretch of development is that it's probably pretty likely that you're not adding too much new to the game. You're refining the precise details and bug fixing. It's a lot of work, but it's not the most glamorous stuff in terms of presenting your audience with that information. In mistakenly assuming that we only want to hear massive massive news and don't want general updates from the team confirming that they're still working on it and what stage they're at in development, even if they're behind schedule, Neostream has made backers of this game feel completely abandoned. That is the absolute key to this discussion in my opinion. The fact that this was funded on Kickstarter, meaning people have already given some of their money, some of them a lot of their money, to this project, and you not telling people about any updates for a very long period of time makes it seem like you don't care about the people that have backed you way back when your idea was in its infancy. I think the best solution for this problem would have been for Neostream to hire a social media guy. Maybe they have one already, I don't know, but if they do, that guy's the Floyd Mayweather of South Korea. He's a legalized bank robber. He's getting paid for nothing. On their official site, Neostream has links to their YouTube, Kickstarter, and Facebook. They have nothing else. Their YouTube is entirely comprised of old pre-alpha footage from the beginning of the whole journey and one really awesome recording session, but they typically take years between posts. Their Kickstarter also sometimes goes years while only posting one or no updates because they only want to make the big announcements. And the biggest waste is their Facebook page, which is just a way for them to post links to the other two. In my opinion, they need to be active on Facebook, or better yet, they should get a Twitter account and be active on there and just give us small snippets or tiny pieces of information, or even just tweet a couple of times in general to let us know that they still exist. Another PlayStation indie game that was shown at the big showcase and didn't really get much info until very recently was Jet the Far Shore. And this is exactly what they did. They just posted occasionally some incredibly small clips from the game, and for somebody who's excited for it, that's important to get the public confirmation that something horrible hasn't happened behind the scenes. Games like Elden Ring and Silksong have also given us the runaround for extended periods of time, where they go silent for a year or more and don't provide any updates. And that sucks enough as is, and I think small check-in updates should be more normalized with games because people don't realize how valuable that can be. But if the game has been announced as far back as LDI has, a whole 6 years, and more importantly when the game has been crowdfunded and has fans that it owes, this becomes imperative, and I hope that by some chance, even though I know the channel is small, it's very unlikely that this happens, but still, I hope this message reaches Neostream. We are very excited for this game. Speaking for myself, I can fully understand taking a very long time with this game, especially because you're a new indie studio with big dreams, and also, by your own admission, it's kind of difficult to get the talent to work on this game out in South Korea. We do not want you to rush this game out and have it fall flat on its face because it released before it was ready, but there has to be better communication going forward. Even if Little Devil Inside is about to get a bunch of new information and is about to hit its rollout phase and be released soon, keep this in mind for the future, any future projects that you might have. A little bit of communication goes a long way. Anyways, that's me, that's my thoughts on it. I think we as fans need to be a bit more wary and careful about how much weight we put into unofficial news or things that don't come directly out of the horse's mouth, so to speak, just for our own good, you know? And I think that developers need to be better at communicating with fans and not going incredibly long periods without doing so, not even a hello or anything. And I also think that I want to go eat pizza, so I'm gonna do that. Bye!